This video is over graphs of quadratic inequalities. We've graphed quadratics, we've graphed inequalities, so now we're going to graph quadratic inequalities. So just as a quick review, when you've got this guy, that's a less than symbol, and we will shade down. When you have this one, it's a greater than symbol, you will shade up. If it looks like either of these two, you're going to be graphing it with a dashed line. And then if it were greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, then you would be using a solid line. Alright, the first thing we're going to graph is y is greater than or equal to 5x squared plus 10x plus 7. First thing I want you to do is look at the symbol and decide, okay, this is greater than or equal to, so we are going to graph it with a solid curve. We are also going to shade, and since it's greater than, we will shade up. So I've made those notes so I don't forget. Alright, the rest of it we're just going to graph according to how we always do. We'll go negative b over 2a, so negative 10 over 2 times 5 gives you negative 1. And if you plug in a negative 1, you get 5 minus 10 plus 7, which is 2. So our vertex is at negative 1, 2. And our axis of symmetry is at x equals negative 1. So let's graph that. Alright, take a second, set up your graph. I'm counting by 1s on the x-axis and I'm counting by 3s on the y-axis. So negative 1, 2 would be about right here. And then we need to find some other points. The other most obvious point is our y-intercept, which is going to be at 0, 7. So we'll put that right there, and then we can mirror it over, negative 2, 7. And then we need to plug in, let's plug in a 1. If we plug in a 1, we get 5 plus 10 plus 7, and that's 22. So when x is 1, y is 22. So if this is 21, then 22 would be right there. And if we mirror it across our axis of symmetry, we'd also have a point there. So here's our parabola. We're going to graph it with a solid line. And we're going to shade up above that parabola. Now, sorry about that. So we're going to shade above this parabola, so that's everything on the inside, because up from that parabola ends up being on the inside. So you're going to shade here. And that's all there is to it. So let's try another one just for good measure. Okay, we're going to graph y is less than 3x squared minus 18x plus 2. So we know it's less than. We're going to shade down, and we're going to use a dashed line. Alright, so we know our axis of symmetry is going to be at 18 over 2 times 3. 18 divided by 6 is 3. And if we plug in a 3, we get 3 times 3 squared is 27 minus 18 times 3, so minus 54 plus 2. 27 minus 54 is negative 27 plus 2 is negative 25. So we've got a point at 3, negative 25. That's the vertex. We know our y-intercept is at 0, 2, so let's go ahead and plot those points. Alright, 3, negative 25 would be right here. And 0, 2 would be up here. Can mirror that across to 6, 2. And then we need to pick something else to plug in. I'm going to plug in a 1 so that I get 3 minus 18 plus 2, which is negative 13. So 1, negative 13 would be about right here. And we can mirror that across to 5, negative 13. And there's our minimum of 5 points. If you wanted to be more exact, you'd have 2 and negative 22. And 4 and negative 22. And then sketch in your parabola. Only I screwed up. I forgot to make it a dashed line. So we're going to erase our parabola. Hold on. So I'll just erase it into a dashed line. And you can always do that with your pencil if you mess up. if you mess up too badly, you can just write me a little note that says this is a dashed line because it's supposed to be dashed. So there we go. We have a dashed parabola. And we need to shade down. So if we shade down, that means everything down from the parabola. So all of this on the outside. I'm going to end up shading the whole outside. Okay, and now for this last example, we're going to graph a system of quadratic inequalities. That just means we have more than one. This first one is going to be solid because it's less than or equal to, and we will shade down. The second one is going to be dashed, and it's greater than, so we will shade up. Alright, so I'm just going to make a little chart for the first one. I know negative b over 2a, I don't have a b value, so that means it's 0. Our axis of symmetry is the y-axis. And if I plugged in a 0, I'd get y is 4. So the y-intercept is the vertex on this one. And we can plot that right here at 0, 4. If we plugged in a 1, then I would say negative 1 squared plus 4. So negative 1 plus 4 is 3. Have a point at 1, 3. Which I will mirror across negative 1, 3. If I plugged in a 2, negative 2 squared, so negative 4 plus 4 is 0. And I'll mirror that over here. This one's going to be solid, and we'll shade down, but I'm not going to shade just yet. I'm going to graph the other one. So on the other one, negative b over 2a gives me 1. And if I plug in a 1, I have 1 minus 2 minus 3, which is negative 4. So our vertex is at 1, negative 4, and our axis of symmetry is at x equals 1. If I plugged in a 0, I could look and see my y-intercept is negative 3, and then mirror that across here. If I plugged in a 3, then 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 2 times 3, so 9 minus 6 is 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So I have a point at 3, 0, and I have a point at negative 2, 0. I'm sorry, negative 1, 0. This one's going to be dashed. And I'm going to shade up from this one. So if I'm going down from the teal one and up from the purple one, then the part that encompasses both of those is this region in here. So that is the only part we are going to shade. This pretty part right in here. And that's it for quadratic inequalities.